It's the same story, different figure. To say that Mafex Captain America comic version wasn't the most well received on promotion is an understatement. Unfortunately, Daredevil wasn't exactly most anticipated figure of the year either, despite being one of the most highly anticipated figures of the year. What? Call it bad posing, bad promotion, or just a lack of knowledge on the character on Mafex's part, but Mafex Daredevil comic version didn't exactly get too many collectors excited with its early promo pics. But fear not, what we saw isn't necessarily what we got. I'm here to tell you that Daredevil is one of those figures that you just have to experience yourself. Justice was not done to this figure, and hopefully by the end of this review I can show you just how much there is to love about it. So here it is, Medicom Mafex number 223 Daredevil comic version. So if you haven't already seen it on Instagram, here it is. I think this is what people wanted to see the most. How does the Mafex stack up against Marvel Legends? Which I don't have, but Legends Black Suit Spider-Man uses the same body, so you'll have to squint your eyes and pretend this is the Legends Daredevil. But also, whether or not Mafex Daredevil uses the same body as Mafex Spider-Man comic version, which it doesn't. Yay! This is completely a brand new sculpt and doesn't reuse any parts from Spider-Man or any previous Mafex releases for that matter. When it comes to a new character, I don't think Mafex has ever reused the same body from another character. Obviously, repaints and retools of the same character like Hush and Batman don't count, but you can see pretty clearly here that both Spider-Man and Daredevil are completely different figures. Daredevil is taller and a little more stacked in terms of physique. The chest width is more or less the same, but Daredevil does have more prominently sculpted pecs and more well-defined ab muscles. His shoulders and arms are bigger and thicker, but I think the most visible differences are in his legs, especially those thighs. I wouldn't necessarily call him huge, like Hush Superman, and he's much slimmer compared to Cap, but he definitely ain't skinny either. They've given him that athletic, well-built gymnast-type body, and for the most part, I think it works pretty well. Could he be bigger? Sure. Why not? I mean, I was in the same group of people who thought that the figure was a little bit on the small side when Mafex first released their promotional shots of Daredevil. I mean, Daredevil, like every other comic book character, has been portrayed by so many other different artists, so I guess it's really down to personal preference. In saying all of that, like the Mafex comic Cap, this figure is a lot better in hand than what they've shown in the photos. I think besides the slightly narrow chest, I actually really like it, especially when you have him in more dynamic poses. This is your classic 90s comic book style red suit Daredevil, so don't expect any laced up boots or any armored plated costume. It's red on red, simple cowl, 2 horns, and DD symbol on the chest. Simple as it may be, it's really well done. Everything you see is sculpted, not just painted, as it should be. From the lighter red boots and gloves to the belt and double D logo on his chest. It's a nice contrast to the main body, which is a beautiful deep red covered in darker red shading. I love the subtle sculpted details around the crotch area where you can see the visible stretch marks in the costume. You even get a little bit of that around the back and the lower legs as well. The entire figure has a nice satin finish to it, making it look and feel like a premium collectible, as it should. For head sculpts, we get 3 expressions: your neutral stern look, a teeth grit face, and your shouting option. I love these little sculpted details with the wrinkles and stretch marks around the eyes and the ears, even at the back of the neck. The eyes themselves are a lighter red with a slightly shinier finish to them that gives you a bit of contrast between that flat red of the cowl. The teeth are white, the paint is clean, nothing more you could really ask for except for maybe a Matt Murdock head sculpt, which this release doesn't come with, but you could use the Scott Summers head sculpt from the Jim Lee Cyclops release. The head is a little bit big since Cyclops is a bit bigger than Daredevil, but I think you could get it to work if you wanted to. It doesn't look terrible, but again, just a tad on the big side. I really like the head sculpts we got with this release, and to be honest, if you asked me to swap out any of the head sculpts that were included for a Matt Murdock head sculpt, I probably wouldn't do it. Anyway, just want to give you guys an idea in case you are wondering. Unlike Cap, my copy of Daredevil has 0 issues. I mean, the entire figure is red, so you're probably not going to get much paint rub, but the joints, the smooth articulation, everything feels great. And it's not just the figure. All of the accessories work as they should, making this release so much more enjoyable than Cap. Even though I'm a much bigger fan of Captain America, I've just had a better overall experience handling Daredevil. So hopefully that's a good sign for every other copy out there. Fingers crossed. So as expected, Daredevil has some fantastic articulation. Really, really good, as expected, as he should. You know, you need him to jump off buildings, leaping over rooftops, doing all sorts of acrobatic stuff. So starting off with the head. Looks up pretty good. Again, great for those diving off rooftop poses. Looks down just as well. You've got some great left and right head tilt. And of course, side to side as well. Really good, solid, well-moving neck joint there. Moving on to the shoulders for butterfly joints. He does bring his arms well over his chest. I mean, look at that. That's a fantastic cross. Love that. Going back, just as good. I mean, he can touch his own hands. No problems there. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you get butterfly joints that really don't function as butterfly joints. They're just, I guess, cups, you know, in the chest to fill out those gaps. But these work really, really well. The arms go up more than 90 degrees, which is great. 360. And I got to mention that the articulation, all the joints feel really smooth, really tight on this guy. So definitely a lot of fun to pose so far. Get a bicep swivel. Double elbows, really good range there. And of course, your swivel. And my wrist is already hinged, but hinges at the wrist. So for the ab articulation, great stuff going forward. That's just the upper half, but if you tie that in with the lower section as well, that's a really nice deep crunch. Not too much gappage at the back. And some really good range going back as well, which he needs. You get a really good side to side. Look at that. You can get his rib cage to touch his waist, which is fantastic. And of course you get rotation there at the lower waist and a bit of rotation there at the upper waist as well. And I guess the thing that I love about Daredevil's costume, it's simple, nothing gets in the way, but his design, it doesn't, like, the way that it's cut as a figure would be cut for articulation, it doesn't break up any of the design elements. Yeah, so big advantage of having a simple costume, but it works. The crotch piece here, it is a softer plastic, so you don't have to worry too much of getting, like, you know, those little dents in the thighs sometimes when the crotch is a harder plastic. So they thought about that. Kicking forward, pretty good. Doesn't kick. Oh, wait a second. There we go. You just got to rotate a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's a split. That's a 180 split. But again, yeah, you do have to rotate the thighs. You do have a hidden thigh cut in there, which works really, really well. And for side splits, it's not completely 180, but it's a pretty good spread. The billy club holders are on a ball joint. Just tab into his thighs so you can rotate them around. We got double knees. Pretty good range there. No boot cut, but I think the upper thigh there does work good enough to give you enough range. You do have a swivel at the foot. The foot does go down, up, toe hinge, and some really good ankle articulation, ankle pivot. So yeah, just really great, fun articulation for Daredevil. Probably as good as Spider-Man, so you're not going to have any problems getting Daredevil in some really fun and dynamic poses, even though I have him in a vanilla pose right here. But yeah, enjoy it. It's good. For accessories, I think the only thing that we were missing from this release was an unmasked Matt Murdock head and cowl. Other than that, I think what Mafex has thrown in with this release pretty much covers all bases. For hands, we get a pair of Rock'em Sock'em fists, a pair of diving hands for all your aerial rooftop dives, a set of open hands with clenched fingers for all your tiger claw martial arts poses. We get a pair of stylized open palm hands that I like to use for billy club throwing hands, but you could also use them for pretty much anything else. A set of relaxed hands because Daredevil has to take a breather sometime, but they also work as really good squatting hands. We also get 2 billy club holding hands for some pretty standard looking but comic accurate white billy clubs. We get the normal short white staves, one with a strap and one without. A couple of billy club holders for his left leg, fully holstered, half holstered, and empty option. But we also get 2 wired clubs as well, one set with a hook and another with just the standard white clubs. It comes packaged really neatly in these small little coils to the point that I really don't want to ruin the perfect little ringlets by messing with it. The wires are great, they're nice and thin, and because the clubs are nice and light, you can get them in pretty dynamic poses without the wire drooping. It's a really simple accessory, but just adds so much more playability and posability to the figure. Love it. So I mentioned in my Captain America review that I've been cutting back on Mafex this year. I think out of everything that was released for 2024, Cap and Daredevil were my only Mafex purchases. Not that I've lost interest in the line, but one other company has just been relentless with its releases. I'm finding it really hard to collect anything else unless I really, really want it. And to be honest, if Cap and Daredevil are the only 2 Mafex releases I grab this year, I would be more than satisfied, especially with how good Daredevil came out. I'll even go out and say that it's probably one of the best Mafex releases in the line. I totally understand if you're not a fan of the body they chose. I don't think I can argue with anyone on that. But like I said, and I'm sure you'll hear this from many other people, you just have to have it in hand. It's just so much better than any photo or review makes it out to be, even my review. But for me, the best thing about this release is that it was just such a joy to handle, to pose, to play around with. The figure is solid, the accessories add to the figure's playability, and everything works like it should. It's not complicated, it's not fiddly. Everything about this release just felt right, and a lot of the times that right feeling factor just gets overlooked. I absolutely love this release. For me and my collecting needs, this is pretty much my perfect Daredevil, and I don't think I'll be needing another. I highly, highly recommend this one. Is it better than the Legends? I don't know. I don't have it, and honestly, I don't really care about owning that one either. This is it for me, and if you're still on the fence, I say go for it. And that's it for this one. If you enjoyed the review, please drop us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to do them push-ups, and as always,
よろしく